Does anyone want more beer?
Good though.
Well, you are in Wisconsin.
Yeah, give us another.
Thank you.
What's going on?
Hey.
Just wanted to start off, you know, some of you may not know my history. First, let's just start off with that, right? You got to make a BFF by knowing where they started. And I want to be all your BFFs. By the time we leave, we're all going to hug. So where did I start? What city? It's actually a couple hours away, Chicago, Illinois. And it was a little bit rough, you know. We didn't have much. We didn't have money to go out to the mall, theater, stuff like that. But we did have good values. My father was an entrepreneur himself, started a tax company. You know, it always didn't go that well, but he taught me persistence. He kept going. And he taught me that he cared, even though it may have not presented that way sometimes. You know, sometimes the strictness doesn't come out that good. But my mom was also a good principle maker for me, caring. And I got a lot of, I'll just be straightforward with you guys, a lot of trauma from them, but I turned them into gifts. I learned thick skin very early on, and that led me to McDonald's. I actually worked at the airport, O'Hare International Airport, and I still remember it. I got the thickest skin from this one guy who came in, ordered a cheeseburger, and he came, gave him his order. A couple minutes later, he comes back like, just fuming. I ordered a cheeseburger. And he shows me a 80% half-eaten, or not half-eaten, 80% half-eaten filet of fish. Fish or filet, or whatever it's called. And this guy's just like losing his mind. And I had to learn, you know, hey, this guy's probably going through something that I have no say in, that led him to come here like this. So I'm really grateful for those sorts of moments. Over time, I went into small businesses, working my way up to corporate America, and it's just what you do in America. But at some point, I realized this is all garbage. I don't want to continue following the fray, whatever other people do. I want to use my actual superpowers to help people. So, has anybody here, speaking of superpowers, has anybody here ever read comic books growing up? Oh man, 3 people. Okay. Well, if you haven't read it, you may know of the captions where when they were fighting, they would go like kapoo, pew, right on the little caption.
Like Batman.
Like Batman, yeah. And his Robin would say, "Gee Willikers, Batman," and all these captions would happen. So to kind of amp us up for what we're about to learn, there's a lot of content. I want y'all to stand up with me. And we're going to do a little power ourselves. Yeah, everybody. Careful not to hit somebody next to you. Do whatever you want to do. Jab, elbow somebody. Yes. Just go pow as you do it. There you go. Jared's got the idea. Boom. Stacy's got the cat going on. All right.
What's that over there?
Cool, so everybody got it out? Cool, grab a seat. And this is very intentional because what we're about to cover is the POW section out of my book. The people power, other people's money or resources, and lastly, winning. All right? It's going to be pretty awesome, but let's jump right in. But I wanted also, I threw something in here this morning that I want you to think about because it could be very important for that worksheet that we're going to cover. What is your superpower? For me, it's like relationship building. I love being around people, building relationships. For you, it may be something else. So I want you to just meditate on that question for a second and just write it at the top of that worksheet. What is your superpower? Are you good at numbers? I know my brother is an algebra whiz. I also love addressing inefficiencies in business. It's another superpower of mine. What's yours?
Uh-oh, that's not easier.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh my goodness.
My superpower is to move this.
Ludwig is present. All right, so I think we got enough time to address that. So now that you have that superpower in your mind, it'll help you to address the rest of the stuff. Starting with people power. Nothing you do in life you cannot accomplish without people power. So we're going to address different categories of people. The personal, the business, and the spiritual. All right? These are the critical pieces. And this is all not in my book. This is very specific for you guys. I developed this. The personal. I know it's not healthy to be alone all the time, and I know this is going to sound kind of counterintuitive, but to get closer to other people, you have to learn how to be comfortable with yourself. I had to learn this pretty early on. Well, actually not early on. I depended on relationships in all of my 20s. I was like, oh, I can't have identity without relationship. And so I would just jump, just this needy guy, right? That was my identity, having a girlfriend. I didn't know how to depend on myself for my happiness. So one day I got this reality check when I had to go to Florida. I actually had to go alone because I broke up with my girlfriend a couple months before. And I was like, the trip is there. Let's just knock it out. See what it's like, even though I'm kind of scared of being alone. So I went there, and I'll be honest, it was a little overwhelming. Like, I don't know anybody here. What am I going to do with myself? But over time, I got to do things that I enjoy. Things that I love for me to do. I would go out running in the morning, had time to go to that meal and get that nice shrimp cocktail, that steak. And this makes me think of a powerful question I heard recently. Do you treat yourself like someone you love? You know, it's so easy to just go be a workaholic all the time and not love yourself, not spend time with yourself to relax, to really reflect on what's happening, what amazing stuff is going on in life. But when you have those alone moments, you could do what you love. And for me, I actually ended up making more friends there. And it was July 4th weekend. We hung out on the shoreline and no obligations. I was so happy with myself that I completely forgot. I wasn't aware that a woman was hitting on me. I was literally, I was so oblivious. I was eating my steak there on the South Beach, nice restaurant, looking out. And I remember clearly there was a whole group of girls, and one of them got up and started talking to her friend closer to me. And she was like, hey, as she was walking by. And throughout the entire meal, she was like, that's how women know they will like you, right? This is totally how it works. My fiance did that to me, I'm sure. No, but I was so grounded in myself that it actually started to pull people in. And what I needed over time actually got automatically gravitated towards me. Just a couple months ago, I wrote down, I need an opportunity fund manager. And guess who showed up, like 3 weeks later? Through a friend of mine, they said, hey, I know a guy, I don't know if you're looking for this. But since my passion is in affordable housing, this all came together, and I'm not really needing it. I'm not like, oh gosh. So it becomes more like I'm gravitationally pulling people. But how does this apply to business, career? Let's say if you're in a job now, I would say work your way into finding your passion. You know, if it's a business, if it's even being the leader of that corporation, do what you love. But acknowledge that being that cog in that wheel is also something you should appreciate. Because when you start your own business, you're going to appreciate every single person saving you 1 billion hours of time. And it'll make you have a greater appreciation for it. But also from a business investment point of view, if you're I cover other people's money in detail, but if you're a business owner, you want to be returning capital all the time, either to your capital investors or to yourself. So that's something to keep in mind. And I would say even when I started in real estate, it wasn't always about making 200% returns. It was also about getting the experience. People actually care for people that actually have more experience than having 200, 2,000% returns all the time, because they know, oh, this guy, he's done the work. He's far ahead of the curve than I am, and she is than me. Actually, when I was working at corporate, I had several coworkers of mine be like, hey, Ivan, I hear you're investing in rental properties. Can I take you out to lunch and you can tell me about how it works? That could be an easy conversation that you have with anybody. So we covered the personal, the business, now it's the spiritual side. Now, it's not my place to say which God to go after, but I will say, have some sort of higher power in your life. And the reason I say that is because being out, like leaving my job a couple years ago, ironically, that was one of the darkest places in my life. And God was a big part of getting me out of there. But the main reason for that was I wasn't depending on a man to set a bar for me. When you're setting a bar with God, you're just like, whoa, right? And when you have that high bar, that accountability, that cycling, that moving forward is endless. You're going to wake up with more fire. You can tap into that God power. All right? So, the spiritual side, I guess I could draw that out in a story too. I went to a transformation event maybe a year ago. And it was Kyle C's, a wonderful event. But what I noticed was when I continued going to these transformation events, I would get a fire for doing something in my life. But a couple weeks later, it would quickly dissipate. So when you have a higher power, now this is no longer a matter of some man said you should do X things. It becomes a matter of there are eternal ramifications and eternal amounts of people that are depending on you to do that. Oh, that's a pretty high bar we're going after now. All right, so that's the people power section, and I wanted to kind of briefly work through a little exercise for that. So if you look on your worksheet here, there's a section called haves and wants that you can help with. So we have this event in Atlanta called the haves and wants, where we literally just say what we have to offer in a business perspective and what we want. So if you could think about either short term or long term, what you have and what you want out of your life or your business, spirituality, write it down. And I also want this to be interactive. If there's somebody next to you or across the room that you think could help with your want. Say, Dom, you're interested in fashion. Maybe you could talk to Haley over there. I want you to spend that like 5 minutes just kind of briefly talking through that with that person or the person next to you. So we can start to add some traction into moving forward. Okay, we'll take 5 minutes for that. All right, guys. Hopefully you got some good conversations out of that. The next section we're covering is the other people's money. But it could also be resources, right? Because other people have wisdom. They could drop that on you, and that could make you $1 billion. There's a lot of people dropping good wisdom out there. All right, so other people's money. Let's just break it down into literally those words. Other people's money. Other. We have, in this American culture we have, if you're looking for another person's resources, we have this thought process, right? Oh, why do I even have to do that? Am I less because I'm asking for this? Because I don't have that? You know, this is perpetrated into our culture to have, like, you have to make $1 million and you have to do everything on your own. Otherwise, you're stupid in the head. it's so silly. Like, rappers have this belief system too in their songs. Corporate America, I could do everything without you. It's awful. It's toxic. Other people are depending on you. You need to change that dynamic of feeling that less than when you're raising capital to, I'm doing a massive favor for these people. So who wants to go into the next parts of this? Because I've actually raised over $1 million. So who wants to learn that lessons of it?
I do.
Okay, go on.
I do.
Okay, cool. I've raised much more over that, but let's go into it. People. There's all sorts of people out there. I know a guy that works at Trader Joe's, sitting on $100,000. He's one of my capital investors. Like, it wouldn't make sense to think about that, but even somebody working at a supermarket is wanting to invest their capital. They want to make those passive returns with people that they trust. And it doesn't have to be real estate necessarily. Let's say you have a bread company. You buy it for $1, each loaf of bread, or each entire container of bread. And you improve the marketing, and you figure out a way to market it up to $1.75. That's a 75% gross return. Do you think you could market a loaf of bread for 75 cents more? Do you think you could do that? Okay, cool. Man, 3 people again. People don't like bread in here. But seriously, that's what it is. You have people suffering out there to make 10% returns. You can make them close to 75%. Of course, you got to take care of yourself in there. You can't feed other families, can't have a team of people working for you if you're not taking any money for yourself. You got to take care of yourself first. So even if you think about a bank, in terms of people and money, did you know the average bank makes, for every $1 you spend, 300 to 1,400% out of that $1? That's why they're on every freaking corner, because they're like, let me just scrub this money into a bunch of other monies. What do you think when you drop a $20 bill at the bank off, they're not going to give you the same dollar bill. They're going to use that till it dies, that money. That's why they want it to be sitting there. They're going to capitalize on that. So you could do other people huge favors, because you're making at a bank, what, 0.00002%? You would have people running after you if you could tell them, I could regularly give you like 8 to 12% returns, because I've done it myself. And I'm going to suggest that to you. If you want to get people to invest capital with you, put your money where your mouth is. Put a little bit of skin in the game yourself too. That'll give more confidence. Maybe you're not an expert on the matter of what you want to raise capital for, but it'll give them some sort of comfort. So that's other people's money. And I mean, you could come after doctors and lawyers too, but don't ignore that one guy walking around with the flip-flops and the tattered wife beater shirt, because he actually could be sitting on millions of dollars too. I know a guy in Tennessee, he's like 80 years old. He lives like in a very old house. It's all dusty and stuff. But he has boxes full of income records from all his cash flowing properties. So imagine if a guy like that wanted to diversify. He said, hey, I want to try something like fashion, because that's speaking to me. Because even a real estate investor knows you got to protect your money with spreading out risk. I spread out, most of my capital is real estate, but I have some money out to loans, little stuff like that. Because I don't want, if something goes down with the market, I don't want all my money damaged in one place. So that's other people's money. And statistically, it's also been found that 4 out of 10 people that you speak to, especially at networking events, have some capital to work with. So don't be afraid to network. Get to know the people. Take them out to lunch, even your coworkers. Get a feel for what their goals are to see if they could align with your business. And that's how I also raised capital from even my coworkers when I was working corporate. It didn't make any sense, but they have a 401k. They can't guarantee any sort of return. They would prefer to invest it with me. And it really just takes a lunch, you know, getting a feel for who they are, not just immediately jumping to, hey, I need capital. Do you have it? like Hannibal. Put the lotion in the basket. You can't appear desperate like that, guys. You have to develop a relationship. I've developed relationships to the point now where I could literally call a guy and he could write a check for me in 24 hours. Like, okay, Ivan, I trust you. You know your deals. You know your numbers. Here's the blank check. Go. But that takes time. That takes aggression, mastering your business too. Having a good heart that you could trust. So, for this activity section, if you look at your worksheet, we have a couple questions here. If you're raising capital at this point, what reason is it? Let's identify that problem so we could overcome it. And then who are 3 people that you know have money sitting just making 1% returns? And lastly, how could you help them expand their money with your investment or business idea? And then coming out of this, what is your next step? Are you going to take them out to lunch? Or are you going to, you know, pet their dog? Let's figure out the next step. We'll take 5 minutes for that too, guys. The last section is winning. All I do is win, no matter what. Who heard that rap song? All right, so I'm going to redefine winning for you, though, today. So remember how I said when I left my job, it was one of the darkest periods of my life? I quickly found out because it was my identity to have a job. My boss wants me to get up at 9. She wants me to leave at 5. They want me to perform at a certain level. They want me to get ahead of markets at a certain level. They want me to do all these things, and that's my identity. You're going to pull that away? And I went into this mad depression. I would get up like at 11, 12 o'clock. And the thing is, you know, a lot of people say if you have a bulk load of money, you'll be happy and you could, everything will be resolved. And your business will go upward super fast. All of those things garbage. I had that bulk load of money. I had savings. I had, from a property sale, I had a good nest egg. But it didn't make me happy. I quickly realized money, what they say was true. Money does not make you happy. And since I was so depressed, I didn't really have that much aggression towards properties. I only did like really 2 flips in that year. I could have did a lot more if I was getting up on time, if I actually kept on top of folks looking for properties. So I had to do some deep work and figure out that a lot of my losses in my life are actually going to lead me to victory. I had to look at my trauma. I had to look in Chicago, where in the middle of gentrification, you had a single mother that every month, every year had to move rental properties because she couldn't afford the rent. She had to go further and further away on train stations, buses, so that she could afford staying at her job, her factory. I had to switch schools. Relationships were not a real thing for me because I thought, oh, a year later, this is going to be gone. So I kept people at bay. It was only surface level friendships, relationships. All these just debt, emotional debt just coming in, just gathering in my system. And I used it for victory because I realized I could make a stamp on gentrification that nobody else could because I can use that pain for gain. Not just for myself, but for other people. And that's when I realized affordable housing could be very profitable. And at the same time, help people stay in the community. So they don't have to suffer going that extra train ride. Suffering the child, because that was actually my mom, guys. I had to switch schools. And it's not stable. Like I would cry, you know, like just lose my mind every time it would happen because, oh, just when I thought I was getting close to loving on someone, take away. So now I have this newfound fire to cycle my sales section of my business into affordable housing. And now I get up 7 in the morning, I'm like, whoa, hey, what's going on? What's next? Who is getting in front of my goal? Because I'm going to kill him. Okay, not seriously. Don't get concerned. They're in the basement. So, but seriously, when you figure out that emotional-based, not money-based power you could dig into, then you could really win. And if you guys see that there's some emotional hindrance in your system, some trauma holding you back, some negative limiting belief that's been sifting in your system, handle it. Identify it. I know it may be subconscious sometimes, but be specific about figuring out what's holding you back as best as you can. At one of these transformation events I went to, I actually met somebody that helped me dig that out of me. It was an emotional freedom coach. And she helped me to figure out into my childhood what was going on that affected my adulthood. Like, for example, I would do speeches, and whenever I would get nervous, I would be like, well, the thing was about the thing. Like, I would just regurgitate what I was writing down, because it was my safety zone. If you wanted to also look up that lady that helped me, her website is yourstrongestlife.com. But it could be any other form of ways that you decide to address those matters. I know there's another form of therapy I found out there where you literally, the therapist gives you a bat and you just hit everything around you like a couch and just lose your mind. And that could be therapeutic too. Just letting all that anger out that's sifting in your system. It's been collecting. So yeah, redefine winning for you by actually looking into your losses. To wrap that up, I wanted to summarize for you through a childhood issue of mine. And it relates to the POW, the people power, other people's money, resources, and winning. So let's go there. There I was. 8-year-old little child being held down, and in front of me this awful looking creature, demon looking thing with horns, boils all over its face, was holding me down. And I would wake up every night with this nightmare until I finally got the courage. Weeks of this. Got the courage to tell my dad. I said, Dad, I can't sleep. I have this demon that always comes after me. It doesn't feel good. Could you help me? Could you help me out of this? And he said, sure, son. Here's what you do. You let it come close, right? And then you pow kick it! Kick it in the face! Jabs! Elbows, everything! Alright? And sure enough, that worked. With pow! That demon was not coming back. It was like, oh his lip and leg. And he showed me that lesson. And I'm super grateful my father did that. And it relates to these principles too. I used the people power my father. I use other people's resources, his wisdom, and he helped me to win through that situation. We overcomplicate things at times, right? But it literally could be as simple as kicking things out of our lives. Slicing them out if they're unhealthy for us. I know I shouldn't drink Dr. Pepper, but I still do sometimes. But I gotta cut it out.
That's good though.
I know. It is pretty good. But yeah, those are the lessons that I wanted to share with you, so that you could also pow into whatever business, spiritual, personal goal you want to achieve. Thanks, y'all.
Wow. Can we get a wow for the pow? Wow. Thank you.